Caldera Linux and Mandriva. Those was my first encounter of any hackable Linux. Eventually, Debian and Ubuntu was my favorite Linux. Then I got Arch Linux. That was my peak moment when I realized like I could have anything on my own system. I can make my system anyhow, any way I like. Plus, I could say I use Arch, by the way. Along with that, Manjaro Linux and other derivatives from the same Arch Linux using the Pacman as a package manager. Then my second biggest encounter was using NixOS. That means Nix the package manager. That time I realized like those two must meet into one so that each and every time the installation felt easier, plus it becomes as stable as brick. That means if no one touches the brick will not move around. Like if I use Arch and I install a lot of softwares, if some air blow comes, the system becomes eventually unbootable. Yes, I know I can make that system bootable again using other kernel and booting into other operating system and managing those boot manager issues or even the GUI issues so that the system becomes bootable again so that I can start working again. By the way, I must acknowledge that I'm not a one machine man. That means I need multiple machines to work with. Like this machine is having a limited RAM, some other machines is having a ton of RAM, a ton of GPU. So that machine must not work throughout the day. Whenever I need, I use that machine. Whenever I don't need that much of power, I must shut down it so that I don't encounter with a huge electricity bill. Those are some examples why I need multiple machines. Like even I need a single beefy machine just to build something. Like whenever I build my operating system, it takes quite a lot of time, but it do not require a high-end system, but it requires the system to run all the time. So those are my basic needs. That is the reason why I need a lot of systems. Eventually I came up with the special needs, that is sharing the display. And what is the best operating system to share a display? Eventually it is Microsoft. I remember I was having some degree of expectation and respect towards the Microsoft Windows operating system. That is because they had great integration of GUI built into the kernel so that operating system is best for gaming and sharing the display with multiple users. Yes, I know there are some tools and technology like OpenRDP, XRDP, but those are not quite there. If I compare even with Windows XP, it is much more smooth and stable. So how do I get an Windows operating system up and running? I already have the hardware. I just need to purchase the operating system. That's it. I understood like Windows 10 is much costlier than Windows 11. So I was about to get Windows 11. But that time I realized like Windows 11 price and the device right now I am owning this device. This laptop cost me $5 more than the Windows 11 license alone. And this laptop came pre-installed with Windows 11. So I was excited like what the game I have played. Like I have got the hardware along with the operating system within the same price range. So I was quite excited. Like if you see, this system is having only 4 GB and 3.66 GB is usable memory. When I started this system, nearly 3.2 GB was used by only the operating system. That time I realized like I made a bad decision, but it was not so bad. That is because I got the hardware. So I could install my own operating system Gopi OS, which is based on Arch Linux and CashOS kernel. So I was very much excited even to test out my operating system if it is quite good enough to run this laptop. Yes, this laptop was running much nice and easy, like 1.1 GB of used RAM was there. Even running with Fish and some kind of window manager, all those eaten only 1.1 or 1.2 GB of RAM. So I had plenty of RAM and a dual core CPU that is much more what I need. But eventually I understand like multiple device driver, especially the audio and Wi-Fi driver is not supported on my operating system. That is because my operating system doesn't provide the binary blob. That means non-free hardware driver. Those are not included in my operating system. That is the reason why, see, I had to install another operating system that is called Manjaro Linux. Yes, I know Manjaro Linux is also a spin-off from the Arch Linux. That is also a plus point. That is because I can still say I use Arch, by the way, and I already have added Nix package manager. See, 42 Nix user and 61 Nix default along with 1351 Pacman stable packages are installed on this system. But remember, I still need one Windows system. What do? Eventually, I found some of my laptop still using Windows XP under the hood, but those are not like quite stable, and I don't want to rely on those older hardwares, because see, if I working on those system, eventually they can die any point of time. So I need a quite reliable system. That is the reason why I chose this one. Eventually I found one CD and having those keys, so it is the time I install Windows XP. Let's get started with Windows XP. What a good feeling to see this installation screen. I just need to type enter followed by F8, which is equivalent to I agree whatever the shit you were talking about. That means the terms and condition and end user license, ELU or ELA, whatever it is. Yes, it is having 80 GB SSD with this NTFS file system. Yes, NTFS was the default and like quite good file system compared to DOS 3.2, 4, 6 or even Windows 95. So it is better to proceed with NTFS file system. And yes, it is like quick format is more than enough. So it would take much less time to format that. This, I remember this formatting system would take like half a minute or 1.5 minutes on my old hard drives. And this copy is going like very fast. At the time I remember installing XP on my old system, it would take a long time. Another surprise, like still this CD is working great, especially when I made an ISO. I was thinking like it must be gone, but eventually it worked. Let's hope for the best, like it gets installed 100%. Nearly done. I think it will be done in a while. It ran like within few seconds. Yes, that is the time when you wait for some times to like the operating system to be installed and fully set up. Meanwhile, let's do something else. What are the things I can do? Yes, search for Arch Linux and go to AI mode. Let's understand what Google has to say about Arch Linux. Arch Linux is an independently developed, lightweight and highly customizable Linux. Yes, I agree with the lightweight thing. I must understand it is independently developed. Nowadays, like more than 1,000 developers are helping this project out, so that even only to maintain the operating system's website, I understand there must be over 10 or 15 people are helping out. So it is not independently developed as of today. Lightweight, yes, I agree. Like Arch Linux can be lightweight, but it also can be a heavyweight operating system if you customize like that. And highly customizable Linux distribution, that is the main point. Like it is the highly customizable Linux distribution. Even if you go and see some interviews of Linux Torvalds, you will understand how much he hates Debian and all those Debian related operating system. That is because of the fixed mentality. Fixed mentality, what do I mean by those fixed mentality? Like if they decided to make their operating system version in a fixed Linux kernel, you must use that kernel only. You will be like stuck with that version. Eventually, if they provide the upper version, you will be able to use that, but you cannot do like so much tweaking. Eventually those system will get crashed. I think Linux must use Arch Linux. The Torvalds Linux must use the Arch Linux. He will understand what extensive customizable means. Rolling release, yes, that thing I don't like that much. See, the operating system must be in a concretized system. Like whatever the update and upgrade, those update and upgrades should not affect my operating system itself. The installed packages, like whenever I install a new Go package, whenever I install a Node.js or Python package, those are my development and working tools. Those should not affect my existing operating system. That is the reason why I created Gopi operating system, so that it becomes much easier to handle all those dependencies, and eventually it doesn't become a dependency hell and I had to reinstall my operating system on my device. Pacman manager. Pacman as a package manager, it felt very good and intuitive rather than using sudo apt install something ... Arch user repository, it felt like a C. Like each and everything you can thought of, you will be able to find in AUR. Similarly, you will find all of these applications in Nix package manager. I think Nix package manager is much more in terms of numbers. Let me know if if I am wrong, bleeding edge. Yes, bleeding edge, and I don't want to bleed on my operating system. I can put a trigger on my foot, but I cannot bleed my operating system because it requires another installation of operating system. The Arch Wiki, the greatest wiki on the planet, is Arch Wiki, no doubt. Each and everywhere I felt like I need some help. Back then there was no like chat GPT or Google AI, so there was Arch Wiki, and Arch Wiki felt like each and every possible issue they had some solve or some kind of pathway so that you can fix your system by your own. There is a comparison. A rolling release compared to Ubuntu or Debian, it is like fixed cycle point release. That means they provide with the version, but Arch Linux, you don't have a version. Fedora, yes, I think the developer of Linux, the kernel, the Linux torvalds uses Fedora fixed cycle. That means each and every 6 months you will get a new version of Linux kernel. That is good for him. Another thing I don't want to have with Arch Linux, that is like command line only. Yes, I know command line is much superior, much easier, but when it comes to installation, I want like one or two click or one or two enter, and followed by my operating system should be installed on my device. And 98% of the systems I'm using having some kind of GUI, so that becomes my workstation or laptop or desktop where I don't need a GUI. If the system is server or located on another system, like right now I am at Habra, if I want a system on Bangalore or Bhubaneswar, only that time I will use without the GUI, because the GUI package will consume some amount of extra packages that will consume some amount of RAM and CPU, so that it doesn't acquire some extra packages and those packages will consume extra RAM and CPU resources. That is the reason why I would not install a GUI or window manager on a system that is not being used physically. That means directly. See this mouse, can you see this mouse, keyboard, touchpad? Those are the things require a GUI. There must be some reason to develop mouse, touchpad. What's next? Bleeding edge, stable software edge. Yes, they provide stable version, but bleeding edge, sometime you get a chance to bleed. This is the point where some of us, even the creator of Linux, try to avoid Ubuntu and Debian. But for Fedora, I don't like the package manager. Now let's ask, what is the best way to share screen? I see Windows XP is great for RDP. The best way to share your screen depends on whether you are collaborating in a meeting or controlling a device remotely. I already stated like Windows XP is great for RDP. Why you are not focusing on RDP itself? Windows XP did make RDP popular because the protocol was incredibly efficient. Early 2000, like 26 years have passed, still no competitor to the RDP. That is the reason why like Linux, I don't think as a desktop operating system. What a desktop operating system must have, like a display or window manager built into the kernel itself. And yes, like within 5 years or 10 years you don't update the kernel. What will be any wrong if I like use Windows XP still today? It will work fine. If someone like says like it will be easier for hackers, yes, let them know my IP address and let them try to hack my system. Even with Windows XP, the name is not the username. The name, it is asking to provide a name for the system itself. Okay, let's name it like VirtualBox XP1 product key. I think I should be little careful to produce the product key. By the way, it is also a great experience. Like if I can search for a Windows XP serial key. Those were my searched things last night. Like Darwin Ways. Darwin operating system was and still is best as far as like stability is concerned. That means the Mac and Apple operating system. It also has the base as open source. Still no one is willing or devoted enough to make a full-fledged operating system out of it. Am I breaking any law to search Windows XP CD key over the internet? I'm not sure, but I genuinely feel and think like if Google is providing so many CD keys over the internet, those must not be like legally any issue. Can I copy and paste over there? I'm not sure. Let's check. No, I will not be able to copy and paste those things. If I had to put my original CD keys over here, I would not feel so much confident to share with the internet. But the internet has already a lot of CD keys for the Windows XP. CD 8THFP4C. Okay, let's search this thing over my laptop itself so that it becomes easier to paste. And yes, I'm using Vivaldi as my browser as this piece of web browser was pre-installed on this operating system. Windows XP CD key. Google is not the default search engine. Let's go to Google first. By the way, when the last screen was there, like it showed around 12 to 14 Mbps as my internet speed, but I'm having more, like at least 20 times more than that. But I think the speed limitation is from the wireless card itself. Whatever the case is, let's deep dive into the Windows XP Win XP CD key. Can I get the same or similar key? I'm not sure. I think CD870, CD8. Will I be able to put the CD key over here? I'm not sure. I think this is going very slow. Do something. Yes, it felt so scary to proceed. Eventually, this Windows XP is like out of date, and in simple terms, it expired. So I don't think there will be any legal issue installing Windows XP on any hardware or even to get the CD key from the internet, as the Google is directly distributing them. Registering components. What are the component do you provide within Windows XP? I'm not sure. As I see, it is having enough hardware as virtualized system, but it still takes quite a long time. Like it's been 3 or 4 minutes. It's trying to configure those installed system. Especially I feel too good to like see those animation. Back then my 14-inch monitor was so glowing. The resolution setup screen on that system, I remember it was a quite new experience, as those Windows XP was having a great 3D and UI experience was so great. Like those tabs, those buttons was out of the world at the time. Automatic update was like Windows Service Pack 2 onwards, it was the downfall. Like automatic updates, still Windows 11 sucks at those steps. I wonder if registering Windows XP is still a working thing or not. Feeling so good to have this operating system. Antivirus was a great business for Microsoft. Still I remember those configurations. I don't want a tour, and this tour had two variations, one like simple HTML form, another was like animated one. Let's see the animated one. It felt so good. Like skip intro, the intro was so beautiful at the time. Those type of animations felt so good. Let's see what was those animations about. Best for business. What next? Safe and easy personal computing. Yes, it was safer than the Windows 98. Eventually there was a like meme, like why Windows 98 was called 98, because it hanged 98 times a day. But for Windows XP it was quite a breeze. Like they eventually made their operating system and their kernel and each and every possible secure things they made such a way so that those easy virus could not do anything wrong. So it felt Windows XP safe for quite a while. Exit the tour. Let me help find the network thing. Where is the network thing? I'm unable to see the cursor. Yes, I got the cursor. Okay, where do I get? Each and everything is running. I'm sure, pretty much sure each and everything is running, but I think Windows XP got hanged just after my good thoughts. Let me do a quick restart from the system directly so that it becomes easier and workable system on that Windows. I'm not sure. Let me see. Let's reconnect this again. Can I reconnect that system from any kind of Arch Linux? Yes, I got Windows XP connected remotely within this system. Can I log in? Yes, it is easy experience to log in, but I think the touchpad experience is not quite good enough. Okay, I see new programs installed. Windows Movie Maker. Still, I had to purchase some kind of video editor, but it felt good to see all those pre-installed applications came with a single piece of installation CD. But can I access my network from like this one? Let's see. Network controllers or network connections. Yes, this one. I remember each and every time I click over here, click on properties and show icon notification when connected. Yes, as you see, 1 Gbps connection. If I had this 1 Gbps connection back then, I would feel so good. Still, it feels a nostalgia to have those things over here. IP address is also seems familiar, so I'll be able to find those network places. I don't think so. Let's check. Or can it open internet? No, it stops right away. What are the things I can do with this? It becomes much easier. What is doable on this piece of Windows XP operating system on 2026? So it would be a nice experience to take a look as a Arch user. Like I use Arch, by the way. What it can do, a like 25, 26 years old operating system. We'll visit that next time.